One of the most powerful features of Powerpivot is the ability to create measures. Measures we looked at in an earlier video is basically a formula, a calculation that operates on an aggregate level. What I'd like to do is create a number of measures, and these can be created within the Powerpivot Editor or within Excel. So because I'm in Excel at the moment, I'm just going to go straight to Powerpivot in the ribbon and choose measures. If I then go to new measure, I can actually select which table I'd like to save this measure into. And this is the first drop down. Now, in an earlier video, we actually created some dedicated measure tables, and I can't see them here. And that's because they've been hidden from the client. So I'm just going to take a step backwards and cancel out of here. I'm going to go to Manage. And here I can see my measure tables at the bottom of the screen. And they're appearing grey, which means that they've been hidden from the client. I'm going to right-click this table here and unhide from the client. And I'm going to do with the customer measures as well. And I'm going to do it with the supplier measures and also with the key order measures. So unhide those tables so that you can store your measures into those measure tables. I'm going to go back to Excel now and create a new measure. And now I can choose which measure table I would like to store my measure in. I'm going to start first of all with the supplier measures. So key supplier measures is where I want to put this measure. So this measure must have something to do with suppliers, and it does. The name of this measure is number of suppliers. So I want to create a measure that tells me at any point in time how many suppliers I actually have. I could put a description, but I'm not going to bother. And now I'm going to type a formula. The formula is the function I want to use is count. So I'm going to type C-O-U, and that drills down to all the functions that contain C-O-U. I'm going to double click count or press tab, and now it wants to know what column do you want to count. And each column is in square brackets and prefaced by the table that column can be found in. So I'm going to hit S, and that'll drill down, S-U-P, drill down to my suppliers. And in my suppliers list of columns, I actually want the supplier ID. So I'm going to scroll from here and double click suppliers, supplier ID. I'll close the round bracket, and basically I've created a function that says I want to count the supplier ID column in the suppliers table. Now I can also choose a formatting option. So I want to show this value as a number, but I don't want to show two decimal places, so I'll take this down to 0. When I click OK, I've actually created a new measure. Now, not only does the Measures button allow you to create new measures, but it also allows you to manage your measures. So if I choose Measures, Manage Measures, I can see I've got one measure I've just created. It's called Number of Suppliers, and there's the formula there. I could click the Edit button if I wanted to go and make changes to the formatting or the formula or where it was stored or what it was called, or even add a description. If I cancel out of there, I could even delete it using this button here. And I could create a new measure using this button here. So as far as managing your measures, you can simply go to Measures, Manage Measures, and I'm just going to go Close. Now what I'd like to do is create another measure, and this is a measure that's going to count the number of products. And so this is a key product measure. So I'm going to go to Measures, New Measures. I want to store it in my key product measures, and I want to call it number of products. The formula is equals COU, tab, and I want to count the product ID, so I start typing product ID. And it tells me that product ID can be found in two locations, the order details table and the products table. Well, the one I want is the products table. I'm going to go to the source, the one in the one-to-many relationship. So I choose product ID, close the bracket, and then I get to choose number as a format in 0 decimal places, and OK. And I've created a second measure. Now what I'd like to do is create a third measure, and this time I want to count the number of active suppliers. So it's a key supplier measure. So I go to Measures, New Measure. I choose to put it in my key supplier measures table. I choose to give it the name, number of active suppliers. And the formula I want to use is to count the number of distinct suppliers in my products table. So in my products table, I mention who the supplier is. And so I want to count, and they could be repeated. So I want a distinct count. So DIS, down arrow, tab, and I'm after supplier. So I type supplier, oops. And supplier can be found in the products table, and that's exactly where I want it. So I'm going to double click that, and I'll just close the bracket. As far as formatting it, yes, a number in 0 decimal places again. And so when I go OK, I've counted a distinct count, the number of active suppliers. Now, if I wanted to look at my measures, I could go to my Measures button, drop down, and manage the measures. And there I can see my 3 measures that I've created so far. But I now want to create another measure. So I go to Measures, New Measure. This is a key product measure. And the name of this key product measure is confection. Well, actually, number confection. I want to know how many confection products I currently have. So I'm going to do my formula. It's a count, C-O-U, but I'm going to use the count A. This counts the number of values which result in an expression. Okay, because I'm only wanting to count certain ones. So I'll double click count AX, and it's a variation of count A because I'm counting text. And I want to do a filter. So I'm going to go FIL, and I'm going to filter out. So I choose that. And I want to filter the products table because it's asking me for a table. So I choose products, comma. Now it asks me for my expression. In the products table is a column or a field called category. And I want to choose the category field, and I want to find those where the category equals, double quote, confections. I'm only wanting to count the confections. Close the bracket to the filter, comma, and then I choose product name, square bracket, product name. And because I'm using product name, which is text, that's why I use count AX and not count X. In Excel, I assume you're familiar with the count function and the count A function. The count function only counts numbers. The count A function counts all. So what we're doing, which is numbers and text, so what we're doing is using the count A function to count all the product names, but only where, so there's a filter, the category equals confections. Close the bracket, format it to a number in 0 decimal places, and OK. Measure done. Now what I'd like to do is I'd actually like to create another measure, which is to sum the confections and their units in stock. So I want to sum up the units in stock, but only where the category says confections. So we go Measures, New Measure. It's a key product measure, so I'll leave it as that. The name of it is confection in stock. And the formula is a sum X. And I want to sum the table, but I have to do a filter. Filter out the products table where the category is equal to confections, and it's the product units in stock that I'm wanting to sum. So I'm wanting to sum the units in stock, but I'm using a sum X because I need to filter those products where the category says confections. Close the bracket, format it to a number, 0 decimal places, and OK. Let's make another new measure. This is to give me the average price of the confections. So measures, new measure. It's a product measure again, but the name of it is average confection price. This time I'm using average X. We've looked at count AX, sum X, and now I want average X. I'm using average X because I'm wanting to filter, so I choose the filter function. The table I'm wanting to filter is products. Double click, comma, and I want to filter where the column category is equal to confection. And I'm then, close my bracket, comma, and then what I'm wanting to average is the unit price, which is in the products table. Close bracket. This one I want to actually format as currency, and I do want to see 2 decimal places. So we're averaging the product unit price, but we're doing a filter where the category says confections, and OK. And we're preparing all these measures really for when we're going to do a pivot table. So I know we're just creating them at this stage, but we're getting used to different functions. One more measure. If I go to measures, new measure, this is a key product measure, so I'm going to leave it at that. And this one is the highest confection price. What is the highest price of any confection product? So here we're going to use max X, a variation of the max function. But I need to filter, and I need to filter where the products table has a column called category that is equal to the word confections. And I need to see, close bracket, the maximum of the product's unit price, close bracket. That is a currency value. Yes, I want to see 2 decimal places, and OK. OK, now what if I want to see these particular measures? One way is to go to the Powerpivot Editor, so I'm just going to go Manage, and to go to the key product measures here. And if I widen this column, I can see, and make this taller, widen the column and increase the height of the calculation area. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 measures that are key product measures. The number of products that I've got is 77. The number of confections that I've got, and notice the formula bar up here, the number of confections I've got is 13. You can edit the formula up there. So this is my count the number of product IDs. This is count the number of product names where the category is confections. This one here is sum the units in stock where the category is confections. And here's my highest price and my average price. So we can see our measures when we're actually in the Powerpivot Editor. But let's go back to Excel. So I'm going to switch back to Excel, and I want to create another new measure. Measures, new measure, and this is a key supplier measure. So I'm going to change the table to key supply measures. And what I'm wanting to know is I'm wanting to count the number of suppliers in Canada. So suppliers, Canada is the name of the measure. My formula is a count X, not a count AX, but a count X, because what I'm wanting to count are numbers. But I need to do a filter, so I'm choosing filter, and I need to filter out the country, which it finds in a number of tables, but I'm after this one, the suppliers. Oh, I've made a mistake. I need to find, first of all, the table suppliers, that there, and then I need to say that the country in the suppliers table must be equal to Canada. So there's my filter, comma, and it's the supplier ID that I'm wanting to count, which is a number, which is why I use count X and not count AX. Close the bracket, format it as a number, 0 decimal places, and OK. And so that measure called Suppliers Canada will count the supplier IDs, but only where the country is Canada. Let's make one more and then we'll have a look at them. Measures, new measure. This is a key supplier measure, so I'll leave it at that. This is suppliers without a website. Suppliers without web, for example. I want to count X, so I'm counting numbers, but I'm doing a filter, so I choose filter. The table I want to filter is the suppliers table, so I choose that, comma. And I want to filter where the suppliers, actually let me time home page, where the suppliers homepage is equal to nothing. And that's how you say it's equal to nothing. So we filter that out, comma, and we count the supplier ID. Close the bracket, format it as a number, 0 decimal places, and OK. So that will count the supplier ID, which is a number, where the supplier's homepage is equal to nothing, and OK. Let's go and have a look at some of our measures. So we could go to measures, managed measures, and here they are here. And I can even stretch this window a little bit. So there we can clearly see our measures. Also, if I go close out of here, and I actually went to the pivot table, Powerpivot, manage, and here I can see my product measures. I can see my supplier measures in here, and there's just the one. There it is there without the web, there's 24 of them. And actually there should be more. Scroll up, there's more. So do scroll up, you don't always see them. So we've got the 4 supplier measures, no order measures as yet, and no customer measures as yet, but we do have a few product measures in here as well. So we're seeing the results and we're seeing our measures. I do want to create some more measures, all good practice. So I'm actually going to go back to Excel, go to measures, new measure, and this one is an order measure because we didn't have any. So key order measure. The key order measure I'd like to create is total units sold. And the function I want to apply is I want to sum the units sold in the financials table. Close the bracket. It's a number and 0 decimal places, and OK. Measures, new measure. This is also a key order measure, so it's total gross sales. And I'm wanting to sum the gross sales in the financials table. Close the bracket. This one's currency and 2 decimal places, and OK. Another new measure. This one is total sales, and this is a key order measure, so total sales. And I'm wanting to sum the sales in the financials table. Close the bracket, currency is the format, 2 decimal places, and OK. Another new measure. This one is also a key order measure, and the measure name is total cost of goods sold, and I want to sum the cost of goods sold, which is in the financials table. Close the bracket, currency, 2 decimal places, and OK. All right, and one more key order measure. Measures, new measure. I hope you're sort of getting a pattern now. Total profit is the name, and what I'm wanting to do is sum the profit column, which is in the financials table. Close the bracket, currency, 2 decimal places, and OK. So we've created now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 key order measures. I can see these again by going to manage measures, and there they are there. I can also close and go into my Powerpivot Manage button. And if I go to Key Order Measures and scroll up and widen the column and maybe increase the height of the calculation area, I can see these values. Total units sold, and just widen a little bit more. Total gross sales, total sales, cost of goods sold, and profit. So we've created some measures to calculate various results. In fact, quite a few measures now. So I'm going to save the file. Now that we've created some measures, in the next video we'll look at creating pivot tables based on the data model.